Good evening, everyone. Apologies for the delay with the technical hiccups there. So hopefully we got the sound sorted. Thanks for joining us. If you're joining us from the home or online or wherever you are, welcome you all. And today we have a AGM as well as we have normal things that we want to talk about as part of the meeting. So today we will do the AGM first, and then followed by we'll get the general business, which is we have an item today about the block 3, section 229. So we will get some updates from there. Other than that, we'll go through the general meeting. But before that, I just want to go through quickly about what has GCC been doing and who we are and stuff. So my name is Henley Samuel, President of GCC. So GCC is a voluntary organisation, as you know, and everyone, I think in Gungahlin especially with the GCC, everyone doing full-time job, and then they spend as a volunteer with the GCC. So I want to thank my team who've been doing support. And this year we've been very low on number with the executive committee, and this year was challenging, but I think we pulled through it, and hopefully moving forward we'll get more members, so that means we could do more things. And even with the less resource, we were able to mitigate, attend multiple ACT government meetings, and we were working along with the SLA and a few things. And then we also been across different medias as well. So I want to thank my team whenever we get the call from the media. And most of the people think in ACT that community councils are like something similar to in Sydney, where people are kind of employed and paid. But as you know, this in ACT it's different. We are volunteers, we have family, and we have full-time job as well. And this is on top of our other commitments as well. So just for people who not know about this, just be aware. This is kind of purely a voluntary thing. So that's why I want to thank my team for putting the effort. And we also do it as a commitment and with passion. And we also did an election forum this year, and which was great. We were able to invite all the candidates, and there was a kind of a question and answer sessions. And hopefully, we don't want to repeat the same questions again to them after the in next 4 years, because it seems to be kind of a pattern. Or we can keep repeating the same question, considering some of the things never been resolved. So hopefully, the next 4 years will be very productive, and we will be working closely as much as possible with the local MLAs and with the ACT government to campaign for Gungahlin. So on that note, I want to, at the moment, currently we don't have a particular position to run the election, so I might as well run the election. So usually the public officer with the one who does it. So as part of the AGM, so we want to pass the last AGM minute. So who wants to pass here on accept? Yeah, thanks, Darren. We'll record that. And so the next one, we will dissolve the current committee, and then we will elect a new one. So we were posted the nomination in the website, and we have the following candidates. So I will read the successful candidates. So for the president role, I'll be continuing Henley Samuel, and vice president, we got the nomination from Ralitza Dimitrio, and she's been elected as the vice president. Welcome back. So Shah Jilani will be our secretary for the new term. Thanks, Shah. And we have a treasurer. We have 2 nominations for a treasurer. We had Sharia Khalid and Michael Torrington. And I can just make a comment. We don't have a public officer, so is one of you can go with the public officer? That would be great. So we would like to go with the public officer, or do you prefer to be a both of you want to be a treasurer. So you want to go with the public officer? Thank you, Sharia Khalid. So Sharia Khalid will be our public officer. Michael Torrington will be our treasurer. And Darren Marks will continue to be our committee member. Thank you, Darren. And Imansu S. Pradhan is a correct committee member. Thank you. And Mithun Alexander will be the committee member as well. So this is our new committee, and this is a new team. So thank you and welcome on board. So we'll give you a whole encouragement, and hopefully we can all work together and take it to the next level. And in terms of our reports, of the annual reports and stuff, it will be published on your website, on our website. So anyone who will be interested, you can go through our annual reports and the financial reports. And that's a bit with an AGM. Is there anything I'm missing? All good? Yeah? Excellent, cool. So without further ado, I would like to invite Terry, is it you're going to talk about? Yeah, Terry to come and talk about the Block 224. Yeah?
Thanks, Henley, for the opportunity to come and talk tonight. This project, Block 3 of 229, is a project I think that we first presented to the Gungahlin Community Council in 2022. It's a collaboration between POD projects and CORE. POD and CORE have delivered lots of developments in the Gungahlin town centre, so this will be another quality development. This project was DA approved in March 2023 for 561 residential dwellings and 6 commercial tenancies. So that sounds like a lot, but this site is actually an entire city block. So we're talking about a land area of nearly 12,000 square metres, bordered by 4 streets. And we're here tonight to talk about an amendment that we're proposing for the site that's been facilitated by the new territory plan. So under the old territory plan, there were some restrictions on the building typology, and with the new territory plan, there's an opportunity to improve residential amenity, to actually reduce building height of the middle 2 buildings. There are 4 buildings on this site, so to increase the yield by about 17%, and to improve the architectural form as well. So Jonty will speak from Stewart Architecture, will speak to those. So in terms of the capacity of this site to handle this DA amendment, the original DA had a surplus of approximately 150 car spaces. With this proposed amendment, there'll still be a surplus of around 50 car spaces for this site. So similarly with traffic, the traffic analysis that's been completed for the site is showing negligible impact on traffic on the surrounding road network. That's the words of the traffic consultant. And in terms of what negligible means, there are multiple entry and exit points to this site, being a large city block. And in the worst case scenario, which is the AM peak hour, we're talking about an extra vehicle approximately every 5 minutes. So it's a negligible impact there as well. So why are we doing this? Well, as I said, it does come back to improving the architectural outcome, improving residential amenity, and being able to facilitate a conversation around affordable housing as well. So under this current proposal, there's a requirement to deliver 25 affordable units on the job. And what that means is that those units are sold to pre-qualified purchasers at a discount to the market rate. But then those purchasers are free to on-sell those units at market rate, which is good for them, and it helps them get into the property game. But what it does do is it removes those units from the affordable housing pool. So what we're doing through this amendment, apart from those design changes, is engaging with a community housing provider, and we're looking at delivering an increase in the number of affordable units to what there is now. We're still working through what that number is, but it will be more than what we're currently proposing. And what that does is it retains that product as affordable rental in the affordable housing pool for the next 15 to 20 years. Which is a better outcome than just getting a one-off benefit to an individual buyer and then losing the product from the affordable housing pool. So they're the main benefits. I think it's a no-brainer. We didn't want to pass up the opportunity that the new territory plan provides to realise these gains, and so we felt that a DA amendment to achieve these improvements is warranted. So that's what we're here to present tonight, and I think with nothing further to add, I'll hand over to Jonty to take you through it.
Thank you, Terry, and thanks everyone for having us tonight. As Terry mentioned, we were here a number of years ago presenting this scheme the first time, and is DA approved now. And just for everyone's benefit, this is the previously approved scheme on the site. So it's a series of 4 buildings that run north-south up the site, and feature these 3 laneway or park spaces between the buildings that allow vehicle and pedestrian permeability through the site. And as Terry emphasised, it's a really large site, city block size site, and this offers a really good opportunity to break down the mass of that site, and allow people to move through. And one of the key drivers of this outcome was the old territory plan dictating a building envelope that required the building form to sort of step in as it got towards the middle of the site. And you can see that evident in the 4 buildings here as they sort of pyramid into the middle of the site. And under the new planning rules, that restriction has been removed, which allows us a little bit more flexibility to design something that's maybe a little bit more visually appealing. It's easier to build, has better longevity in terms of waterproofing and thermal performance. So there's a lot of benefits we feel in the revised scheme. If we go to the next slide. So this is the approved scheme in 3 dimensions. Now it's the refined back, this is just a 3D massing to sort of keep it as simple as we could. And those darker green spaces on the roof were sort of open space, residential open space in each of those buildings. So with the next slide, this is where we start to propose changes to the approved scheme. So the first move we make is to add an additional typical floor to each of the buildings. And that allows us to get a stronger street frontage datum across all 4 sides of the site. The next move for buildings A and C, which are the ones fronting Hinder Street and Kate Crace. The next one, perfect. We rationalise the upper floors of those buildings, so we remove that pyramid step from each of those buildings. And then we consolidate all that open communal space up onto the rooftops. And instead of being tucked away in pockets on the east and west of the site, these are now fully open, 360-degree view. They'll get great sun all year and really great outlook over the town centre. The next move that we make is for the centre buildings. So you can see the white stepping pyramid remains in the middle, but we add additional units to the north and south of each of those footprints and rationalise the upper floors of those buildings. And then again, we add that consolidated rooftop garden space to each of those buildings. And then one of the benefits of this scheme is that we can actually end up reducing the overall building height. So we go from 11 stories to 10 in the centre of the site. And again, that reads stronger in an architectural form across the whole site in a more consistent datum. I think the next one shows us, and there's a proposed massing of a slightly more simplified form. And the next one I think is a quick comparison. So we go from this sort of very complicated, very busy architectural outcome to a much more simple and refined outcome. Additionally, one of the things, this here is one of the perspective views from the approved scheme. So this is building A along Hinder Street. One of the key things in the original scheme for this site was that buildings A, B and C would all have a distinct architectural style, so as to again break down the mass and not read as one large development on one block. So the next image, if we go, this is where we've ended up with the proposed addition. So as you can see, it's still very much in keeping with the architectural style. The bottom 5 stories or 6 stories essentially unchanged, and then we just refine the top of each building. If we go to the next one. Again, this is the approved scheme, so we see a sandstone coloured base to that building, and then the beginnings of that gridded stepping in the upper portion. And where we've ended up with our proposal on the next one. Oh, that's zoomed in a lot. You can now see that that upper form is far simpler, far more rationalised, and the beginnings of how some of those larger rooftop communal spaces could work with planting and pergola structures. And then this was down the centre of the site, so this is between the 2 middle buildings. This really lovely, genuine deep soil planting zone with large established trees. And one of the really great benefits of the amendment that we're proposing is that that can be maintained, and we're proposing no changes to any of that. So that is open to the public. That's part of the public realm. People can wander through there. Commercial tenancies fronting Anthony Rolfe Avenue can be accessed directly from that space. And then, there we go. That's the updated version there. So again, that more rationalised upper portion of the buildings. And then finally, building C, which is on Kate Crace. Again, a third architectural style for that building, a slightly smaller scale in height and a very linear architecture. And then in our proposed amendment, we maintain that same style and we just rationalise the way that the top is working, provide that larger outdoor communal space for residents to use up there. And I think that might be all of my slides. And I do think that Terry actually covered off all my other points. So thank you, Terry, and thank you, everybody. And I'm happy to answer questions as they come up.
Anyone have questions?
With some of the mixed-use buildings that are currently existing within the Gungahlin town centre, one of the major issues is in relation to once you have businesses downstairs on the ground floor, if residents in the rest of Gungahlin, apart from just who live in that particular complex, want to visit those particular commercial establishments, where do they park?
It's a really good question, and it's an issue on a lot of jobs, for sure. One of the really good benefits of this site is the site directly to the south, which has its requirement for, Terry, do you recall the number?
It's like
180 24-hour-a-day publicly accessible parking spaces. And it's obviously not built at this stage, but is certainly a future provision. So we see that as really quite viable for this job. And additional with those through site connections that we talked about, the ability for someone to park on an adjacent site and move through the site to those commercial tenancies, we do feel is quite viable. And also noting that there is a provision in some of the ground floor units facing Hinder Street that they are delivered in a way that they could be converted to a commercial occupied residence if it wanted to as well. So there's additional opportunities for that to be closer to public parking.
And what's the percentage of car parks to apartment complexes? For example, like, is it 1.5 per apartment complex, depending on how many sort of residents might live there? Because often the big issue is often around the town centre, which we don't want to add to, is that not enough car park spaces are allocated to the apartment complexes. So what ends up happening is people end up parking out on the street.
Sure.
And so that's a fairly big problem. What's that sort of ratio that you've got between?
The numbers that we worked on was 1 parking space for a 1-bed unit, 1.5 for a 1-bed study and a 2-bed, and 2 parking spaces for a 3-bed unit. The majority of the units in this development are 1-bed studies or 2 beds. It's a small collection of 3s. So, and as Terry mentioned, there's a surplus still of about 50 parking spaces on site, and that's spread across the 3 stages. So we feel that there's probably a ratio there that's in excess of where most developers would offer, and we feel that that's probably the right outcome for a town centre site where, you know, cars are prominent.
And the last question is, in relation to what you mentioned about the study of traffic analysis, often a lot of the times we've seen that before where the traffic analysis has been fairly flawed. So did the ACT government actually contribute in any way to this traffic analysis, or is this traffic analysis that you yourself have commissioned and paid for yourself for this particular site? Is the ACT government been involved in that at all?
I might defer that to Terry because he'll be more across the traffic.
The ACT government are involved, so the traffic analysis work is based on information that's prepared by an independent consultant that we've engaged, but that consultant engages heavily with the territory and their traffic modelling to inform the outcome. And I guess with this, what needs to be remembered with this project is it's an amendment. So all of the major traffic analysis work was done 3 years ago, the traffic modelling. So what this DA amendment looks at is the difference and makes that comparison. So this isn't about going back to square one and reanalysing everything from scratch. It's about looking at the difference. And as I mentioned, the impact is negligible. So I think it's one vehicle every 5 minutes during the AM peak hour at each exit. So that's partly because of the massive amount of additional car spaces that we already had in the development, that this building's able to cope, or this development's able to cope very easily with what we're proposing.
And do you know on the map where the actual exits were to be? Because I didn't see them.
Where the what, sorry?
The exits, the car exits, the car park.
So there are 3 laneways through the site. The central laneway is pedestrian only, and then the 2 laneways on the outside are for vehicles. So you've got access off Anthony Rolfe, and then you've also got access off Ernest Kavanagh. So from a traffic point of view, this is what you would want. The more entries and exits you have in a site, the more distributed the traffic movements are, and the less congestion there is at each of those entry and exit points in trying to get in and out of the development.
Okay. I should ask one quick question. What's the square meterage of the commercial precincts on the ground floor?
From memory, it's about 550 square metres in total. From previous experience in the Gungahlin Town Centre, we did the Ruby and the Jade developments and found that that smaller scale tenancy tended to suit smaller retail in the town centre, which is why at the moment it's 6 tenancies across 550 square metres, but they're all joined together, so if a larger tenant wanted to move in, could join those to make a larger tenancy.
And there's commercial in every building?
They're located just in the 2 centre buildings fronting Anthony Rolfe Avenue.
Thank you. Just some more question. So with the amendments, was the car spaces being reduced or increased?
So we haven't changed the number of parking spaces provided on the site. We've increased the amount of apartments on the site, but because we had a surplus of 150 parking spaces under the approved scheme, the site can accommodate the additional yield without requiring more parking spaces. So we still have a surplus of 50 parking spaces.
And is there dedicated ones for the commercial ones, or?
Yes, there is a requirement for staff and visitor. I want to say 12 to 13 is the requirement for those. But again, with those adjoining...
Is it for each commercial it's 12, or is it overall?
Overall, for all of the commercial space.
Right. And I think Terry was talking about the affordable housing thing. So how many affordable housing you have on the site?
This is Terry's area.
So there's currently a requirement for 25 affordable housing, and we're looking at increasing that. That's subject to ongoing conversations with the community housing provider. So we don't have a final number on what that is.
So it's a minimum 25?
Yes, we can't go below the minimum obligation, which is 25, but we're looking at going beyond that.
Right.
Yeah.
And you talked about people selling the affordable housing when so with that one, with the amendment, so is it going to stop them doing that, or it's going to be...
No, if this transaction with the community housing provider goes ahead, and it's subject to a lot of their own due diligence and finance and things like that, that would require a community housing provider to retain those properties for at least 15 or 20 years. So they remain as affordable rentals, as opposed to the current requirement, which is we sell the 25 affordables to qualified purchasers who could then choose to on-sell them if they wanted to.
So with this model, they're never going to own that property, so it's always...
Correct, they're rentals, correct, owned by the community housing provider.
I'm still thinking with that process, like some of them want to get into the market, so with this model, they're always going to be in rental.
They'll always be?
They're always going to be in the rental side of it because...
No, with affordable housing, you cap the rent at 75% of the market rent, and the concept there is that allows people to save a deposit,
right?
So they can enter the housing market themselves.
Okay, cool. And is there any like how far it's from the public transport? Is it in this site? Is it just over
probably,
the
what,
maybe
150 metres?
50
to
metres?
the light rail?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is an ideal location.
Yeah.
For this. I guess the other point I want to make about this site is that it's already approved for residential, and it's a significant residential project. And you know, our view is that with Gungahlin,
You might want to come.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
With Gungahlin Town Centre East, we support the GCC's views that there needs to be more uses and development in Town Centre East other than just residential. So we feel that by these enhancements to this project, it gives the GCC greater negotiating, I guess, in a way, or engagement with the territory around alternate uses for some of the land in Gungahlin East.
Yeah. And lastly, about with the commercial one, like, do you guys like what type of when you're planning and stuff? I know it's approved, but I'm just wondering, like, what kind of commercial elements that you are thinking? What kind of, like, would it be like all this works or?
Yeah, well, it won't be. It'll be smaller businesses. So it could be a cafe, it could be accountants, legal firms, hairdresser, those types of uses, similar to what's already existing along Anthony Rolfe. Yeah. So the idea was to try and reinforce those commercial opportunities.
So the only problem we had was with the mixed usage. It's always a coffee shop there, and then so I'm just thinking, like, if you can think outside the box and try to bring some unique.
So in the other developments, we have made sure that the businesses are complementary, that they're not fighting against each other. There's no benefit to anyone if you've got businesses going out of business because they're competing with each other. So that's something that generally happens when you're negotiating those sort of tenancies and sales.
One last question. You mentioned about the mixed use and cafes. One major problem in Gungahlin with mixed use is the cafes emit noise with their equipment and all the exhaust fans and everything that they install. So is there a buffer between a commercial tenancy and the residential units?
Yes.
So like in some of the buildings like Ruby, Gungahlin, they have the car parking in between, which prevents somehow the commercial noise emitting to the residential, disturbing their time of sleep or having rest in their home.
Yep. So as part of that approval that was done 2 or 3 years ago, there was an acoustic analysis done, and an acoustic engineer did a report, and he set building requirements for fit out that have to be achieved for those sorts of uses. So the building envelope or the tenancy envelope has to insulate itself against the surrounding uses to make sure there are no impacts. Yeah.
Any further questions? Are we good?
Could you be sure where the commercial supposed to be there on the picture, please?
Here
That side.
and here.
Just those.
Yep.
So how many are we looking
Three
at?
tenancies in each building.
3.
Yeah.
So 6 in total.
Yes.
And do we know the mid-range of it? How big are they going to be? Or they just... You just
I couldn't tell you individually. They do vary in size,
Yeah.
but the total is what, around 550 in total. Yep.
Cool. I think. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah. Cool. I think that's conclude our meeting. This one a short one. Usually the December one's a short one, and as this is the last meeting for this year, just want to thank everyone who helped us and supported us throughout this year. Thank you so much for all those been supporting us through Facebook as well. We will see you all next year, and I wish you all a wonderful, merry, blessed Christmas and Happy New Year. Stay safe and enjoy the season with joy, peace, and good night, and God bless.